Part 3 of 4 of The Niece by Margot Livesey from the book What If. The next morning Zeke rang the bell, knocked, tried the knob. The door stayed resolutely shut, the windows adamantly blank. He even bent down and called foolishly through the letterbox. "Hello, it's me, Zeke." By the end of 5 minutes he was holding on to himself like a kite on a gusty day. He finished around in his pockets, his bag, and is rewarded with an unmistakable vision of his mobile phone, lying on the floor beside his bed. As he walked to the corner, he counted the bag ends on the pavement, some crushed, some whole, to keep himself from floating away. 7, 8, 11. Twice he had to stop and retrace his steps to make sure he hadn't missed one. Look down, he thought, not up. In the forecourt of the underground station, he found a free phone, and, trying not to think of all the hands, the mouths that he had passed this way, he picked up the receiver and dialed the Barrows number. The answering machine clicked on with Mr. Barrows' brief nasal message. She popped out for a paper, he told himself. She's taking a bath. Walking back, he forgot the cigarette and placed his feet carefully in the middle of each paving stone. At the house nothing had changed. He knocked, rang, shouted again, before climbing into the living-room window. He had opened it the day before while using the steamer, and, in the excitement of her arrival, neglected his usual security measures. Now the ease with which the sash slid up made him feel stricken. He had left her at the mercy of any passing lunatic or thief. Inside, he began to tiptoe towards the hall, then, reconsidering, attempted his normal gait. "Hello, anyone home?" He turned things on. Kettle, radio, lights. No flash and zap today. He made the obligatory cup of tea and set to work. But after 10 minutes of standing, he couldn't bear it. The possibility that she was gone bounded into his head and ricocheted around, and he didn't even know her name. He laid the sandpaper aside and, wiping his powdery hands on his jeans, climbed the stairs. He had re-encountered the first day he had the house to himself. He always did, flitting through bedrooms, checking wardrobes and drawers, cupboards and desks. It wasn't what Emmanuel thought, snooping for kinky underwear or helpful pills, but the way he coped with strange houses. He picked out a hiding place. Sometimes, when he felt particularly shaky, he even stored provisions there, a bottle of water, a packet of biscuits. Here at the Barrows, he'd chosen the pedestal desk in the study. With his knees drawn up, he fit almost perfectly into the dark view. Now he moved from one light, bulbous room to another. In the master bedroom, the tattered floral wallpaper made his teeth ache, as did the disorder which seemed, mysteriously, to have worsened since his last visit. The drawers of the dressing table were half open, and several of the framed photographs on top lay face down. In the study next to the desk, the row of machines, computer, printer, fax, even a photocopier, winked at him with little red or green lights. Miss Barrow worked at home, she'd explained, editing textbooks. Last, their son, Sean, Seth's old room. He had mentioned him at their first meeting, only to be cut off by her husband in a tone that suggested the boy was already halfway to hell in a handcart. Zeke knew that his own mother had for several months reacted to his name in a similar fashion. Had he ever been so glad to see a suitcase? The larger of the two lay open on the foot of the bed. Not meaning to snoop, he stared at the contents. Almost half the case was filled with small, multicolored boxes of a kind used for earrings and necklaces. The remainder was occupied by 2 camera cases, a portable CD player, a clock, and a pair of silver candlesticks. For a moment Zeke was tempted to count the boxes, each so orderly and distinct. Then he stepped over the bed and knelt to bury his face in the pillow. Here she was, and here. The scrape of a door hurled him to his feet. "Hello," he called, starting down the stairs. She was in the hall, levering over her boots, heel to toe. "I went to get us fried egg sandwiches." She flourished a paper bag. "I broke in," he offered. "Brilliant," she said, handing him the bag. In the kitchen he set out plates, salt and pepper, sheets of paper towel. He'd had his usual bowl of cereal only an hour ago, but now, following her example, he ate ravenously. She was wearing a faded blue sweatshirt, the sleeves rolled up. the hem stretched tight. How far along was she, he wondered, trying to recall Emmanuel's sister's configuration at various stages. 6 months, maybe 7. Watching her pepper the egg, he realized he had dreamed about her the night before. Only a fragment remained. She was winching a metal bucket brimming with water out of a well. Before he could tell her, she was talking again, describing her stint as an office cleaner when she'd eaten a fried egg sandwich every day. We were meant to start at 6. Instead, we'd come in at 8:30, spray lights all around, and sit down to our fannies. When the suits arrived at 9, they assumed we were taking a well-earned break after hours of work. She licked her lips, first lower, then upper, in a glistening circle. So, what are we doing today? Putting up paper? He began to stammer. He was making good progress. Besides, her aunt and uncle were paying him for a fair wage. I'm serious, she said. I need something to take my mind off things. At the time, he assumed a covert reference to Miss S. Ladder when he scrutinized her every utterance. It became one of those mysterious manhole covers, briefly raised over the sewer of secrecy. Before he could voice further objections, the dust, the fumes, she had spotted a pair of overalls hanging on the back door, and the next thing he knew, she had scrambled into them and was demonstrating how well they fit. Her belly split the front like a chestnut in its shell. Come on, she said. I bet you're paid on the job, not the hour. At first, he was embarrassed telling a woman older than him by perhaps a decade what to do, but she turned out to be much more biteable than Emmanuel. As they finished the standing, he on the ladder, she on the foot, she lobbed questions in his direction, and despite her careless manner, he sensed that she was, in fact, listening to his answers. Whereas the doctors, to a man and woman, as soon as he opened his mouth, had focused on pencil sharpeners, radiators, doorknobs, they were paid, not enough, not by him, to barely feign attention, scribble a couple of notes, and, as quickly as possible, write a prescription that would propel him, thank God, out of their offices. But this woman, with her fierce brow, her chapped knuckles, for whatever reason, actually seemed interested. So, she said, folding the sandpaper into standing block, it's decorating the family business, or your heart's desire? Neither, he was longing to ask about her, so he offered up himself. A pound of apples, a fistful of bananas. My father was a greengrocer in Brighton, got up 4 every day, except Sunday, to buy the fruit and veg. Then he worked until 7 at night, hauling sacks of potatoes and chatting up housewives. Did you live near the sea? She asked. Not far. If I stood on my bed on tiptoe, where there was a tiny triangle of water. He'd done this precisely once. Dismayed at what his maneuver had revealed, now he climbed down the ladder, moved it 4 feet, climbed back up, and started on the next stretch of cornice. I used to think, she said, life would make better sense if I could see the sea every day. Not for me. A street makes sense, a house makes sense, but the sea just goes on and on. Waves, waves, waves. I couldn't wait to get away. We were 10 when we moved. Even the absent-minded doctors had caught these sorts of slips. Do you see yourself as 2 people? A man with a wedge-shaped head had asked gleefully. Barely 1. He had thought, but not said. She tapped her sandpaper and said nothing. In London, Highbury, his father had a new shop, bigger and busier. I used to help evenings, Saturdays, lovely tomatoes, nice juicy oranges. Then one day, one of our regulars, Miss Oma, said, when you're the boss, and suddenly I understood why my father was always pounding away about what to order, how to price stuff. I started to pay attention in school, do my homework. It drove me mad. You want to be a dreamer all your life, he used to say? Head stuck in a book? Careful, she said. Beneath his savage standing, the ladder swayed like a sapling in the wind. He couldn't tell the story without jumping back into that old, hopeless arena. Over fresh sandpaper, he admitted that he had studied accounting at university. I wanted to do anthropology. I'd read a book about the rainforest tribes of Papua, New Guinea. But I didn't have the nerve. I needed to know I was heading towards a job. She didn't ask the obvious question which, as they began to measure and cut the lining paper, enabled him to answer it. The day after his final exam, he couldn't leave the house. End of part 3.